Good night, class. It's very good to have you tonight. Who's ever signed on, please go and tell your classmates that we're here. I don't have the opportunity to do that right now because I'm getting ready to teach you guys. Or can I? I think I can do it. Testing 1, 2, 3. Good night, everybody. Hope you can hear me clearly. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Hey guys, good night. Welcome to Astro Einstein, your class. This is your class. We are catering to your need for knowledge when it comes to the stars and the planet, asteroids, and the universe. We hold the key to knowing exactly what the universe holds for you. You know, there's an old saying that once you control and know astrology, you control the universe. You make the universe work for you. And I think it makes a whole lot of sense, and I agree with that, because then you know the energies that helps to make you up and influence you. And tonight we're going to continue on with the planet Uranus. And Uranus in your chart. Now we finished off with Uranus in the 7th house. We think we discussed about Dale's children having Uranus in the 7th house. But now we're going to focus on Uranus in the 8th house. And what is the 8th house? The 8th house is, or if you'll see me glittering, that's because I was working on some carnival costumes. I'm in full carnival mode, and I'm very, very busy when it comes to that. So anyway, Uranus in the 8th house. And what is the 8th house? Well, what is Uranus? Uranus is the planet of sudden change, of unconventionalism, of rebelliousness, of sheer intellect. It's the planet of your friends and associates. It's the planet of astrology and anything eccentric. It's the planet of aviation. Things dealing with on a broader picture, like humanitarian efforts and social networking and even the internet. Anything dealing with waves are connected to Uranus. The 8th house. What is the 8th house, you'd ask? I'm so glad you'd ask. The 8th house is the house of sex, death, regeneration. It's the house of taxes, your partner's money and finances. Let's repeat. Your partner's finances and assets. It is the underworld, the occult, meaning hidden knowledge. It's the depth, it's danger, it's taboo. All these things are connected to the 8th house. Oh, also, it rules inheritance, because other people's money and death only comes about with being your inheritance. Now, Uranus sitting inside the 8th house. What could that mean? Do we know any human beings that have Uranus in the 8th house? Maybe we do. Maybe we do. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull up a few charts. We're going to do a little case study. Case studies are always good to find out information when it comes to planets in the houses and in the signs. And as you get really further into astrology, studying other people's charts, whether it be famous or your friends, you're going to be amazed at what you find out. It is pretty much the cheat code to anything. Now, let's take a look at Uranus in the 8th house. Who the hell has Uranus in the 8th house? You guys would never believe this. But according to astrology, Ellen DeGeneres has Uranus in the 8th house. It's crazy, isn't it? What does that mean for her? Well, we already know that she's very unconventional when it comes to sex as well. Wouldn't we know that? Of course we know that. Let's look at some other people. Naomi Campbell, Sean Penn, Russell Brand. We want to make sure that these people literally do have these placements before I assume and say something and, I'm completely wrong. Okay, I'm digging a hole in my skin. I'm sorry. So we're with Lenny Kravitz again. Lenny Kravitz, according to what I'm seeing, has Uranus in the 8th house. We're not too sure about that. We gotta take a look at that. Amber Rose. Who all knows Amber Rose? You guys know Amber Rose? Every female inside you should know Amber Rose. Who follows like this sort of stuff should know who Amber Rose is. Sorry if you hear me scratching. That's because of my leg thing I had on my leg. You guys are pretty quiet tonight. Can you give a show of hands so I can know who's in class tonight, please? Who's all listening? Who's all tuned in? I need to know that now, please. It shows one person, but I need to know who all is watching. Okay. Okay. Hey, Sheena. You're right about that. She's well known by the men. Okay, so we got Sheena. We got Candy and Sheena. Okay, that's awesome. Good. All right. Let's take a look at Elton John. I think Elton John has Uranus in the 8th house. I want to take a look. I want to make sure that we have his Uranus in the 8th house. It is not. He has Uranus in the 7th. And I think we did that yesterday. Uranus in the 7th house. Okay. Yoko Ono has Uranus in the 8th house. Some really straight people had Uranus in the 8th house. So let me explain to you Uranus in the 8th house. Uranus in the 8th house can bring somebody into sudden inheritance. Okay? Uranus in the 8th house can make your sexual desires to be a little bit unconventional. People who have Uranus in the 8th house can also make good psychological astrologers. Also, because remember there's sex, death, regeneration, taxes. I don't want to scare you guys. And a lot of people say, you know what? 8th house doesn't really tell you about how the person dies or so and so, but they lie. They always say to you that, that's an ego trip, and they lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. And some people are forbidden to teach about that. I don't want you guys to ever tell any of my colleagues where I taught you about death in the chart. Can't teach you the timing of it, but I could teach you the circumstances. There could be some form of circumstances behind it. And with Uranus in the 8th house, it could possibly be a sudden death. If there are afflictions to Uranus with Mars or any sort of other planet that is benevolent, there can be some accident dealing with shock or being shocked. Let's go off of the death part on the sex. Let's focus on taxes. This person may rebel against, their taxes, wanting to pay bills and feeling as if they're being forced into paying their bills. Okay? Uranus also can make your deep needs, your fetishes, and your fears to be very, very unconventional. Very unconventional. These people make the best surgeons. Because remember now, Uranus is a genius. So even though they have a very unconventional way of doing things, they're still very good at it. Let's take a look at Uranus in the 8th house, and what I'll do is I will read from you a little clip. Let's take a look at the Astro Codex. I always like using them sometimes. They could be alright. Some articles they write are far-fetched, but let's take a look. Having natal Uranus in the 8th house is a rather good placement, which totally complies with the tendencies of our aeon. The 8th house is an open gate to the other worlds, and the presence of Uranus is a very strong indicator of power that still cannot be explained. The erratic character of Uranus might bring some issues in the everyday reality of a person. Nevertheless, material things are no priority to such a native. The 8th house is widely known to be the house of death, and Uranus placed there is a given a sudden and unusual death without suffering. This by no means implies an earthly death, but quite much erases possibilities of leaving this world due to sickness or other lengthy processes. Okay, you see how they smooth that death part over? Because they just tell us not to speak about it. But anyway, in case that Mars is aspecting natal Uranus, this might happen through an accident, like I told you earlier. In addition, Uranus is responsible for all weird death that can even become news on the television. Curiously enough, it also rules funny ways of death and everything else that falls in the category, believe it or not. Yes, if you have this placement, be careful of stepping on a banana skin or choking on your own saliva. Yes, being struck by a lightning or electricity is also a matter of this placement. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. You said we mentioned earlier about those same unusual death and different eccentric death. Normally, the Uranus being in the 8th house can bring that. Okay. 8th house is linked to inheritance. The natal placement gives quite a lot of possibilities to receive an unexpected legacy. If the planet is well aspected, this is defined or definite to happen, and the native will generally receive a lot of financial help through other people. Remember now, the 8th house rules other people's money. Uranus rules mass people. Well, it said that Pluto to be that as well, but that's under debate. both of them actually, rule that. In different forms of astrology. In Horary astrology, Pluto rules the Mars, Sun, its moon. In natal astrology, it is ruled by Uranus. Okay, even if bankruptcy happens, the planet, his finances might change drastically and become a wealthy person in just one day, after a long period of poverty. You hear that? This is also a place for somebody to win the lottery. Let's just say you have Venus in the 5th house, and then you got Uranus aspecting Uranus in the 8th house. This means sudden win through other people's money. Anyway, the 5th house rules gambling and speculation. Okay, so 8th house gives quite a lot of possibility to receive unexpected legacies. If the planet is well aspect, this is definitely to happen, and will generally receive a lot of financial help to other people even without doing anything to get it. His finances might change drastically and become a wealthy person in just one day after a long period of poverty. Be careful, because the nature of Uranus might also do the opposite, meaning make that person who had all that money to lose it very suddenly. When the planet is well aspected, it gives a high possibility of also bankruptcy. Remember, I didn't say this before, but banking is also ruled by the 8th house. This person could have an unconventional way of looking at banks and be like, you know what, I friggin' with no bank. Why? Because bank is so structured and I like my money unconventional. Do not get disheartened, because I'm continuing reading the article before we move on. Do not get disheartened. Uranus might gift the person back the same way it takes away from that person. A good characteristic of such type of people is that they do not really care about wealth. So ups and downs of their finances are regarded with a pinch of salt. I'm going to explain a little bit more. And this is the most interesting part of Uranus in the 8th house. As you can see, it's not really focused on just sex. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. Rebellious planet Uranus seeks freedom in the matters of this house located. With Uranus in the 8th house, the native seeks freedom through sexuality. People with such a placement do not have taboos or adore engage in breaking the taboos with their partner. Uranus in the 8th house can give a deep need for sexual experimentation, creating a lot of fetishes and perversions. The native sexual encounters are surrounded by altruism. The individuals love to offer to his partner and can reach higher spiritual levels with someone he unites with. Sex becomes sacred and even magical with a person that has Uranus sitting in the 8th house. People with this natal position of Uranus might be interested in stuff like yoga, tantra. Well, tantra is the sex, the energetic flow. These can include energy manipulation through sexual arousal, but such is a thing is not necessary. There is a lot of more ways to raise energy without the need for it to be sexual. Like I said before, as we conclude that, I know a very rich dude who has Uranus in the 8th house who doesn't really like banking, and he made millions from bitcoins because the conventional banking didn't really fit his desire. So he focused on a very non-conventional way of banking his money. Remember, I told you that Uranus sitting inside the 8th house, so the 8th house rules banking, and Uranus meaning unconventional way of banking your money. I hope I was very, I explained it in a very much precise and understanding way. If you guys need a question when it comes to 8th house Uranus, ask me now before I move on. I'm going to give you about 15 seconds and then I'm going to move on. Family, I miss it, family. If you're wanting me, no friend killer. Any questions? I'm waiting. 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 Yeah. No? Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to Uranus in the 9th house. And what is the 9th house? The 9th house is foreign places, foreign culture, long distance travel, religion, law, your in-laws. It represents any kind of sport that you do with your feet and your hands. Why? Because Sagittarius is the centurion that, loved hunting and competition. And Sagittarius naturally rules the 9th house. It rules dreams and prophecies. It rules, like I told you, law. So, Uranus in the 9th house. What is Uranus, as we explained? We already know what Uranus is, because I repeat it over and over and over. I'm beating it in your head so that you can have muscle memory. And this is why when you leave this class, no matter what, you're going to remember and don't even know why you remember that. The continuous repetition of anything causes you to remember it. So, what's Uranus? Uranus is unconventional. It's radical. It's rebellious. It is the humanitarian. It is also the genius. And so on. So let's look at some people who has Uranus in the 9th house before we move on. Before I explain to you what Uranus in the 9th house does. Family, I miss a family. If I want thing, friend killer. What? You think I don't listen to reggae? I can tell you what everybody's telling me. But you're a junglist. So, Princess Diana had Uranus in the 9th house. She was known for her humanitarian efforts in other countries. Yes, in other countries. It's a perfect example. She was very unconventional when it came to her spirituality and religion as well. And she didn't really give a shit about law and religion. She didn't give a crap. Her ways, like I said before, was very unconventional. I would have you all to know that her Mars was actually conjunct. Mars rules accidents and collision and metal, and it's actually conjunct her Uranus of sudden. Death was probably seen inside her chart. But anyway, we're not going to go there right now. We're going to focus on the energy of Uranus in the 9th house. Uranus in the 9th house can bring about, like I said before, a very unconventional way of seeing religion, of seeing spirituality. It could bring about a more so not being told what religion is or what God is. No. You can tell me what God is. I define it on my own. So these are the ones who, even though they might have gone about with their family members in a more religious way, they would have found themselves not really believing in that shit. I mean, it isn't shit. It's, I'm just quoting like how they would say. Let me give you another example of somebody who has Uranus in the ninth house. Let's take a look at somebody else who's a little bit more known. Let's see. Give me a second. Orlando Bloom. All right, so let me give you all another example of somebody who has Uranus. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm going to give you a name so you guys can do your own research. But I don't think that's not her. Sorry. I want you to take a look at Madame Blavatsky. According to her chart, she has Uranus in the ninth house. A lot of y'all guys don't know who that is, do you? Take a research and you're going to understand who she is. I got to take a look at some more that you guys know. I don't see it. I definitely don't see any other person that you brought. You guys don't, know. All right? But I'm going to read from you, for you, a little insert of Uranus in the ninth house. Uranus in the ninth house gives a very rebellious mind which will actively search for its own rules and truth, breaking from the patterns that society tries to teach them. The ninth house is the traditional home of Sagittarius and Jupiter. So the expansive planet magnifies the eccentric character of Uranus, leading it towards an unquenchable search for cosmic truth. I think we have a few people in here that has Uranus in the ninth house. I think Dale has Uranus in the ninth house. Would you agree with that, Dale? I'm sure you can. If you were tuned in, you'd say, yes, that's me. People with this natal placement have a strong need of freedom concerning their philosophical and religious belief. They revolt quite early in their life against ideas induced by their parents and teachers choosing unconventional ways and seeking alternate path of spirituality. Ninth house Uranus people hate dogma and most probably will revolt against their own ideas when they get outdated. They will probably develop quite quiet, erratic cosmic theories and frequently be interested in astrology or the paranormal. Sociology and philosophy are also subjects they will dedicate a lot of time to and usually get actively involved through publishing their thoughts about them. Such individuals would prefer to offer their writings for free and use the internet as a means of publishing. Do not forget that Uranus rules technology. You got that? Uranus rules technology. Uranus feels quite well in the ninth house, as in most houses that are on the upper side of the natal chart. Indeed, regarding the possible erratic or even malefic behavior of the planet, it is quite better to have Uranus somewhere high in the heavens, as it does not become a handicap of basic life matters. If negatively aspected, it will still impose difficulties, but the native will definitely be able to work on them, as they are a part of the reality that he or she experiences. Is anybody following me? Because I don't see that you guys are online. I need for you to tell me if you are online. Wave, say hello, say something. Even a hi is good. Let me know. Okay, you're still here. Thank you. Awesome. All right, thank you. I don't know why it says that you guys aren't online, but that's good. Even the studies can be successful provided that there are subjects like informatics, mathematics, mechanics, robotics, and other similar subjects. Now, think in mind that the ninth house also rules higher education, and that represents college. And Uranus going in the eighth house could mean that this person could do very well in stuff that deals with electronics and mechanics and robotics. The person can also study like astronomy, astrology, be an physicist, sorry. This placement gives some possibility of an academic career in such subjects. But the unpredictable nature of Uranus also signifies tendency to quit in order to get concentrated or on something different. The planet does not guarantee stability by any means. In case that the individual chooses the road to become a teacher, he will use quite unconventional ways of holding lessons, giving a different approach and insight to her students or his students. Just ring a bell right there. When you watch this podcast, when you watch this live video, you're going to realize that speaks of you. A well-aspected Uranus in the ninth house may make the native have a vision of a perfect, altruistic society. He or she will be quite interested in new forms of social or auto-organization and will become a pioneer in social reforms. His way of life will follow the romantic ideas and insight that appears as new patterns in their mind, and will be influenced by a lot of other people towards receiving them and experimenting on them. Uranus people will strive to create their utopia. This might be an unattainable goal, but definitely a small step into collective marching forward towards a new era. The ninth house rules travel in foreign places, like we said earlier. So Uranus can bring unexpected journeys and faraway places. Remember now, we're tying the keywords. Foreign places, unexpected, change, these stuff. What you do with the keywords is you tie them together. No matter how much exotic it sounds, and take the necessary precautions when they're traveling. Uranus will probably urge you to travel suddenly. Make sure that you know the current situation of the country that you are going to visit. I'm going to say this before, and last but not least, people with Uranus in the ninth house can be very radical in their perception of reality, with their innovative ideas being even destructive at some point. With good aspects, Uranus externalizes its positive traits that will help the native progress. On the other hand, negative ones may give him an approach towards reality, making him more concerned in demolishing patterns without alternative propositions for them. Last but not least, we're going to talk about the aspects, which I'm going to say anyway. Hard aspects can even give a violent revolutionary without a reason. A person who will fight traditionalism, even if it is a positive nature. People with such adverse aspect can pose a threat to society, as they will try to enforce a change that only destroys and does not provide an alternative way of progress. In extreme cases, the native rejects all type of spirituality and social structures, become an aggressive atheist, an anarchist, and may harm society instead of aiding its enlightenment. As you can see, Uranus and Saturn in that house, the 8th and 9th house, can create a sense of an atheist in some point if Uranus is badly aspected by another planet. Any questions going forward? Because I'm moving on to the 10th. I'm going to move real fast tonight. Okay. Since there's no question, I'm going to move on forward. And we're going to look at somebody with the 10th house Uranus. 10th house Uranus. And what is the 10th house? The 10th house is the house of recognition. It's the house of business. It's the house of your government. It's the house of the way society sees you based upon the way you present yourself. Can mean a lot of stuff. The 10th house could mean in placement. The MC represents your career. What you've worked hard for. What you've climbed and decided on making this something stable. Let's take a look at 10th house people who got Uranus. I'm going to start off with people who have 9th house Uranus, because I want to dance with somebody. As I take a look at Mahatma Gandhi, totally realizing that he has Uranus in the 10th house. Who's Mahatma Gandhi? Well, we already know what he was. He was a humanitarian. Let me put in this. He literally dedicated his life to helping his country. Like literally. Gave his life to helping his country. He has Uranus in the sign of Cancer, sitting in the 10th house. This man was literally a fighter for his society. Okay. All right. That's another person. That's one person who has Uranus in the 10th house. So he was known in his society as a humanitarian. Somebody who would give his life for his country. Like literally. And that was written in the stars for him. Isn't that amazing? What's written in the stars for you? Uranus in the 10th house, like I said, can bring about a lot of change when it comes to your career. Can bring about a lot of different changes in your career. Let me give you another example of that. No Putin. Miley Cyrus has Uranus in the 10th house. Who else has Uranus in the 10th house? Bill Clinton. I'm going to give you a musician who was seen as very eccentric. Prince had Uranus sitting in the 10th house of Leo. So he was born around the same time as Prince, that same generation. I mean, as Michael Jackson, because both of them had Uranus in the sign of Leo. And what he brought about was a very much eccentric creativity, and the world seen and known him for this eccentric way of producing music he was seen as being very strange. But he also had a lot of ups and downs when it came to his career. Bill Clinton also has Uranus in the 10th house. Or does he? No, he doesn't. Uranus in the 9th house. Another person has Uranus in the 10th house, which we all know. Harrison Ford, Woody Allen, Nicolas Cage. Let's take a look at Aaliyah. Aaliyah the musician. Wow. So guys, Aaliyah has Uranus in the 10th house. And guess what? She has it in the sign of Scorpio. And what is Scorpio? Scorpio is a sign of death. You are correct, Sheena. Let's talk about Aaliyah. Aaliyah died from a plane crash, aviation. And the whole world knew this. Thank you for that information, you know. I never knew that. You do a lot of research. That's pretty cool. So Aaliyah, her death, because she had Uranus in the 10th house, in the sign of Scorpio, which ruled sex, death, and regeneration. Her death was a result of aviation failure, which is airplane. And when she died, it was publicized throughout the whole world that Aaliyah had died. Was her death written in the stars? You know, some of those older guys will be like, no, don't tell people that, but I will tell you. I'm not going to hold that back. Now, you're going to read on certain sites when they say, you know, an astrologer can't tell that this person. That's a lie. From pits of hell. I don't care who's watching this video. I don't care if you go on my YouTube channel. You're lying. Yeah, I said it. So Uranus in the, let me give you another example who has Uranus in the 10th house. As you can see, Uranus in the 10th house for Leo in the sign of Scorpio didn't work out well. Right. Another person has Uranus in the 10th house. Guys, the devil believe it. Okay, she doesn't have it down. Good. I'm going to give you one more example of Uranus in the 10th house. And I'm going to go into more detail of it. Another person that has Uranus in the 10th house, Al Capone. Al Capone had Uranus in the 10th house. Who's Al Capone? Well, he was a person who smuggled. He was a robber. He was somebody who made money off of alcohol and, you know, robbing places and just. He was a Pisces rising. but he had Uranus in the 10th house, in the sign of Sagittarius, which rules law. I'll give you a little bit of tidbit of he rebelled against law and religion. He didn't really care about that stuff. But the thing is, the society knew him as a rebellious person. That's just how it is. He was seen as somebody very rebellious. Didn't really care about society and what they thought or law itself. If I'm giving you an example, do you understand? I want you to understand the examples I'm giving you. So, Uranus in the 10th house could bring somebody who could have ups and downs with their relation, with their career. This is somebody who could have a career in electronics, could be an astronaut, an astrologer, astrophysicist. They could be somebody who, can have a job one day and then have a job the next, and have very frequent changes in their jobs. Remember now, Uranus brings a lot of change. Uranus in the 10th house can also bring somebody who is a career humanitarian, or somebody who could be somebody who's a career rebellious person and who rebels against whatever sign it's sitting on.
Attention people.
Give me a second, sorry. Let's take a look as I read from this article. Natal Uranus in the 10th house may strongly influence the native's career choice, making them very picky about what they do in their life for a living. This eradicates the risk of working in jobs they do not like, and can eventually lead to doing a dream job, or more precisely, creating it on their own. The erratic nature of the planet is making the native feel uncomfortable in orthodox type of jobs, which involves routine. For such people, a perfect job is something non-monotonous and can offer very strong mental stimulation, as Uranus is responsible for everything connected with technology. Internet jobs are one of the best solutions so that the individual can prosper. Such people dislike authority and will not submit easily to employers. Thus, a freelancer career and being self-employed is more suitable, as it can grant freedom of movement. In case of the native has to work under the instructions of an employer, Uranus will definitely rebel in some moment. This will not, and most certainly will lead to a quitting of a job in a quite unpredictable manner. Indeed, the 10th house individual may be very hasty in such decisions. He will even quit the exact moment that this idea appears in his mind. An adversely aspected Uranus can lead to a long period of unemployment or quick small jobs, as the native has a deep buried repulsion towards applying for interviews. In addition, Uranus in the 10th house can bring sudden genius insight and make a person an inventor. He or she literally you guys are following? Sorry about that. So like I was saying, this person can create their own career, even if it's not connected to electronics or technology. Uranus can make an idea subtly appear in his mind and dictate to him to follow an occupation that is rather pioneering, unique, or even weird. In any case, Uranus will bring quite a lot of changes in career, many parallel projects and alternative collaborations with eccentric people. As the 10th house rules individuals, stronger parental figure, usually the father. Not take in mind, this is usually the father. not necessarily always the father. This parent may have been himself of a weird nature. The native also, as a child, observed the parent having rather a different approach towards work than the rest of the world, and copes with this pattern or copies this pattern to reproduce it later in his life. The father may be an Aquarius, or else how have Uranus prominently emphasized in his natal chart. He usually dislikes social climbing to authority positions. May be an altruist or revolutionary. And these traits inspire the young native, who will also become a nonconformist while choosing a career. Uranus rules unexpected events, and when located in the 10th house, can bring sudden publicity, even if it is unwanted by the native. Why? You want to know why? Because Uranus also rules the internet. It also rules technology. Technology is television, which brings about sudden publicity. Remember the airwaves? All right. As we continue, usually this happens due to some unique characteristic of the individual or his actions. And he or she will appear in news or be known by society for being an extreme paradigm. His life and career can be very interesting for other people to know. And any information about the native will be presented under the label "Believe It or Not." If Uranus is adversely aspected, the publicity may bring difficulties to the person. He might feel that people make fun of his uniqueness and mock him, while also be a part of a scandal. The mass will gossip about him, and he will feel pressured and uncomfortable while this being at the center of attention. This is if Uranus is badly aspected. I want you to remember that. Uranus in the 10th house is pretty good natal placement, as the eccentric planet feels quite well in the realm of Capricorn and Saturn. After all, it is a lot better to have it high in the heavens, where there will mostly influence life direction than below the horizon. The planet's transits can somehow be directed towards a certain target and goals at least. We should also mention that Uranus in the 10th house will give the individual quite a lot of altruistic traits and might battle for a better society. Remember now, Uranus loves a utopian connectedness energy. Uranus rules revolutionaries and anarchists, and the native may play a role in the social structures to promote such pioneering and transformative ideas. So as we were taking a look at Uranus in the 10th house, as you can see, it can bring about sudden prominence to society and also sudden fall from society. Back and forth, just like that. Take in mind, I was hoping that what is his name? O.J. Simpson had Uranus in the 10th house. I was just hoping. Unfortunately, he doesn't have it, so let's take a look at Uranus in the 11th house. Uranus in the 11th house. Boom. So, who has Uranus in the 11th house? Donald Trump. Donald Trump has Uranus in the 11th house. Would you guys believe that shit? You ever realize how he always got to be on the internet? You ever realize that? Let me give you another person who has Uranus in the 11th house. So that's Donald Trump. That's one. Al Pacino. Oh, wait, hold up. Yeah, he has, you call him Twitter fingers? Yeah, dude has real Twitter fingers. Nicki Minaj has Uranus in the 11th house. And what is the 11th house? The 11th house is the house of friends, associates, the internet. It is naturally ruled by Uranus. So Uranus is very comfortable in the 11th house. It rules that house naturally. So it's in its own dignity, or what we call in astrology, accidental dignity. So, and what else is the 11th house? It's also the house of hopes and wishes, dreams and desires. It's the house of the internet. It's the house of your social networking, your friends, associates, of inventions, of your humanitarian efforts in this world. And what does Uranus in the 11th house does or do for you? When an individual has Uranus in the 11th house, his friendship and group activities will never be boring. I mean, we know that from Donald Trump, from squeezing people who come to his parties, boobs and ass, and biting them, and from him, you know what I mean, always having Twitter fingers. The planet, or this planet, Uranus, is famous for bringing weird situations concerning the matters of the house that is associated with, which are usually out of the native's control. Uranus is in domicile in the 11th house. Oh, yeah, he grabbed the kitty. Oh, yeah, you're right. He does grab the pussy. Sorry. As Uranus is the natural ruler of the 11th house, his friendships and group activities will never be boring. The planet feels at home and manifests at full power, making it probably the best natal placement it could ever have. Uranus here will bring quite a lot of unconventional friends who will try to establish groups that will promote humanism, altruism, progressive ideas for a better world. Remember what his motto was? Let's make America great again. And that sold. The native would choose friends of various characters or characteristics without having barrier and social taboos. He will attract alternate people, many of whom can be genius of nature. In addition, he will be very tolerant or intolerant of racial, religious, or sexual or other differences. There is virtually no stereotype that can prevent him from making another individual a friend. The native will have the magic ability to unite all of these radical different people into a group with him as the center. Furthermore, promoting the breaking of borders or the building of borders between human beings. Isn't that crazy? As Uranus is an unpredictable planet, many of his friends will appear suddenly in his life and their bonding will deepen rather than quicken. Of course, Uranus is, if it's ill aspected by malefics, the native will also suffer an unexpected loss of friends due to various reasons. In addition, adverse aspects shows friends that may have some mental issues, possibly leading to nervous breakdowns or other natural problems. Definitely, that is Donald Trump. It has to be noticed that such friends may be of a very high intellect or intelligence, which can frequently lead to schizophrenic behaviors and other similar issues. Those with natal in the 11th house are craving for freedom through friendships and do not like to feel pressured from their acquaintances. Uranus will make the individual strive to keep some distance or at least an irregular pattern of communication. They prefer to hang out with their friends without previous planning or under no circumstances can bond with someone who desires constant daily attention. Uranus' place here is protecting from all type of manipulation and psychic vampirism. The native is rather intuitive about whom and when to hang out, not allowing overly attached people to use them. Now I'm going to give you something so you can understand this. And I'm going to give you a little tidbit of Uranus and what it does. So he has Uranus. Anyway, Mars with aspecting Uranus can create what we call a revolutionary tendencies. Because remember now, Mars is the planet of war. Uranus is the planet of rebellious. This person can incite or I could, can start a war. Which we already know that's what he's been trying to do from the beginning. A well-aspected Uranus in the 11th house may bring about windfall of money, usually with the help of friends and somehow connected with technology or the internet. Such a situation may happen if Uranus is positively aspected by Venus or Jupiter, with at least one planet being the ruler of the 2nd house or the 8th. This person could rise to prominence again. And we already know that he filed bankruptcy and then bounced back through selling books and the internet. Uranus is one of the planets who's responsible for unusual or even paranormal phenomena. And when located in the house of friends, it can bring such type of events through them, friends and associates. Many of their friends and associates may be interested in astrology or the occult, which usually have spiritual powers that ordinary people do not own. Such experiences may be frequently triggered by transits. Transits are, and I explain to you, about 7 times. Wow, that is a lot. As you can see, ups and downs for him were a norm. Yeah. So Uranus in the 11th house can bring you about very strange friends, as you can see. I'm going to give you a little tidbit, a little bit more that article doesn't really explain. It's a very good placement for humanitarian efforts. It can also bring about people who can go, their hopes and wishes can just come to them suddenly. Like what they desire, what they came here to do can just happen. This is somebody who can use the internet to broaden their associates. They could use the internet to win a lot of people. As we already know how Donald Trump did that. So did Nicki Minaj. Just know that Uranus in the 11th house is a very good placement, and if you have it, you're blessed. Use the internet to make you famous. We're going to move on to Uranus in the 12th house, the last one, so I can move on and head out to practice. Boom. And what is the 12th house? The 12th house is the house of hidden things, hidden enemies. It's the house of self-undoing, of spirituality. It's the house of connectedness, oneness, universal consciousness. Exactly. That was a good point. You have Sheila. She doesn't even use the internet like how she's supposed to. If she did, people would be just all on her. Moving on to the last house. Last but not least. 12th house. Uranus in the 12th house. This is saying some very good people with Uranus in 12th house. So, what is Uranus? What is the 12th house? 12th house is universal consciousness. Its spirituality is also self-undoing. We're going to focus on somebody who has Uranus in the 12th house. Very famous man. Martin Luther King. He had Uranus sitting in the sign of Aries. Isn't it very unfortunate that he died, a bullet wound to the head from a sharpshooter very suddenly? A hidden person. He has Uranus in the sign of Aries, which rules bullets, guns. Is it a coincidence? Should we call it a coincidence? I think not. Yes. The thing is, though, Uranus in the 12th house brought about a spiritual revolution. A spiritual revolution. Think about that. His way of revolting was from a spiritual, which is ruled by the 12th house, revolution. Isn't that very much amazing? That is amazing. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Astrology is so freaking amazing. It is amazing. Scroll down and take a look at another person that has Uranus in the 12th house. So, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mick Jagger. Let's look at somebody like okay. So one of my most favorite persons in the world has Uranus in the 12th house. His name was Nostradamus. He's one of my idols, you know, he's gone, but he was a very much one of the most famous astrologers that I know. I mean, he isn't the most famous, but you know, he dived into a lot of different stuff. So he used astrology in a very spiritual way. He had Uranus sitting in the sign of Pisces. Uranus sitting in the sign of Pisces. And what is Pisces? Pisces gives about dreams and visions and seeing the broader picture. And what did he do? What did he do? Well, he used astrology and other ways, unconventional ways of seeing the bigger picture. He gave visions. With his Uranus sitting in the 12th house, in the sign of Pisces, would have literally fitted that. Nostradamus also had a lot of enemies, hidden enemies that came about very, very sudden. Didn't even know. You know, a lot of people with Uranus sitting inside the 12th house could have sudden enemies, not knowing where they come from, what's the problem, why they like how they are. So they have the Virgin Mary as having Uranus in the 12th house. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. Another person that had Uranus in the 12th house is Edgar Casey, which I don't think that's true. Edgar Casey was a Leo rising like me. Share. I'm just gonna give you one more. Yeah. Oh. Let's take a look at Saddam Hussein. If you guys remember who he is. Okay. So Saddam Hussein had Uranus in the 12th house in the sign of Taurus. And what does Taurus rules? Assets. The 12th house rules hidden enemies, self-undoing. And with this Uranus sitting in that house, it can show that he created hidden enemies because of the assets that his country had. It's crazy, isn't it? The way that astrology can just dictate and tell you these things. It's pretty much well, for him it's a sad story, but that's nevertheless something that could go on. But Uranus in the 12th house can also bring somebody who uses astrology. There's somebody who can want to feel normal. So all their eccentric side, they try to hide and try to be normal. They try to pretend or present themselves being normal. They don't want to present themselves in a very different and eccentric and rebellious way. So they come off as being somebody who can be a Uncle Tom. Somebody who goes with the flow. We don't want to disrupt anything because they're hiding their rebellious traits. Do you get the concept? Do you understand? If you have any more questions based upon what you've seen and heard today, we have the WhatsApp group. I would like for you guys to ask questions. You've already done your homework. I hope you did. The Uranus book. I'm tired of giving you guys assignments and you're not doing it. It is really upsetting me, but I am going to take a deep breath in. Anyway, thank you for tuning in tonight as we conclude Uranus in the houses. Next up, Neptune in the houses. Hope you guys had a wonderful night. Good night.